Saturday, my friends. This is the What is Truth podcast. Welcome, everyone. Hope everyone is doing rather exquisite. Should be a great chat today. I have a returning guest, a friend who has now become a friend of mine, Mr. Randy Walsh. How are you, Mr.
I'm good,
Walsh?
Wheezy. Good, Wheezy. Good to be back. How are you?
I'm doing good, man. I always enjoy having you on, man. And I have a feeling today will be just another fire episode. And if you've missed the previous conversations, 208 was our first conversation. And then we had another conversation at episode number 254. So if you guys are interested, there you go. Mr. Walsh, if you don't mind giving us a brief intro for those that may have missed you previously and maybe help them get acquainted with you and some of your work.
Sure. And I just want to say hello to everyone online there. Missy T, hello to all of you. So thanks for having me on, Wheezy, and for everyone who's watching. So just briefly, I never go through long intros because I find that boring myself, right? But so briefly, I have an aviation background. I was a commercial pilot in the general aviation industry, and I was a flying instructor. So I had students. I taught people how to fly, and I taught at a few air schools in the area here. And that also led into immersing myself in a lot of science. So not that I qualify or an expert in any one science, but just have a general sort of broad base background in science. And so naturally enough, that led into my interest in the space program, which ultimately led into my disillusionment with the space program. And eventually, of course, that eventually led to my books. So here I am. I published my first book about, I think it was 7 years ago, 2018. And I published two more since then. So it's been a very interesting ride in the last several years with podcasts. A whole new world has opened up. A lot of very interesting people have come my way. Many good, some not so good, but that goes with the territory. So, the old saying, if you can't take the heat, get out of the kitchen, right? So it's been a fun ride.
Yeah. And you're working on another book currently, right?
Yeah. So I have several passions, and definitely the Apollo Moon missions is one of those passions. And but I have many other passions, and I'm going to be writing a comprehensive book on that soon. But right now, I'm just finishing a book on the JFK assassination, and it has been a passion of mine since my early 20s. I mean, we're talking, 4 decades ago. We're going back quite a while here, and it was really my first sort of entry or exit, shall I say, from Normie Land. Just reading about that assassination and the incredible, I mean, it's a story that just never ends. It's a story, no matter how many books you've read on the assassination, no matter how many people you've talked to, how many videos you've watched, there's always something else to learn about it, and something else very disturbing about it. So I decided that was my next passion. I wanted to write a book on that. So that book is going to be coming out very soon. It'll have to go to editing and then proofreading and so on. But I think I have two more chapters to write, but it's looking good. And I'm going down a few rabbit holes in that book. It's like Wheezy, like any subject you get into here, it doesn't matter what it is, whether it's the Apollo Moon missions, 9/11, the JFK assassination, it leads down many rabbit holes. So that in itself, I suspect, will be a very interesting ride as well, the JFK assassination. So I'd be happy to send you a copy of the book when it's done, and we can certainly chat about that.
Yeah, I definitely love that. Yeah, one of my good friends, he actually came down for Thanksgiving. He's from the Sarasota area, and Corey Hughes, fantastic JFK researcher, photographic memory. You give him a name from that time, that era, he was wearing a black and white suit, and he was wearing this kind of hat. Like, I'm like, whoa, this guy's insane. But yeah, he's written a couple of books himself, and he's been touring. The reason he was down in Florida, he got invited onto the Myron Gaines podcast. I think it's the Fresh and Fit podcast, pretty large, rather large platform. But I got to meet up with him. We had been friends online for years, and to finally meet him, in person was rather neat. So yeah, I definitely would be super interested in checking out your JFK work.
I've actually I have his book on my list of books to read,
Mm,
and it's not part of my research per se, but it is. I'm always interested in what other researchers have to say, and so I definitely will be reading his book. His book would be read before I come on your show to talk about the JFK assassination, because I was very interested. And the thing about this whole subject with the JFK assassination, everybody has a piece. Everybody has a piece of the puzzle, right? And there is no one expert on that subject. It is a variety of information that's come out, and we know a lot more now. And when people say, will we ever know who killed JFK? Well, it's not so much who killed JFK, and so much as um, what happened within the institution that killed JFK. What happened within the U.S. government agencies that led to his assassination. What led, what was going on 2 decades before that paved the road for his assassination. And it goes right up to the Joint Chiefs of Staff. So we're talking some very, very disturbing and some very big information here. And, we do have a lot more knowledge now, even in the last 10 years. I mean, the research is being refined. There's been a lot of crazy conspiracy theories, but the research in I would say, last 10 to 15 years is being refined down to some serious, I would say, some serious research that has been put forward. So there is a lot of credibility now with the researchers, more recent researchers that have come out and have published books on this. And of course, remember, we've had access to millions of released documents from the Assassination Records Review Board, which was set up by Clinton, reluctantly that is, but he was sort of forced to by public demand after Oliver Stone's JFK movie came out. So we have a lot more information, and there are some documents that are still being held, about maybe 50,000. But does anybody really think there's going to be a smoking gun in those documents? No.
I think the real stuff has been destroyed. Was
Yeah,
destroyed immediately. All these little things, that remnants that we have, um,
exactly.
you may pick up a thing or two. I guess the way I look at it is, especially in the JFK arena, you have so many people, so many eyes, so many researchers fascinated. So you're definitely going to find more truth that way. There's people tackling it from this angle, there's people from that angle and this angle, and you combine all those elements. Now some elements could lead you to a dead end, and could be purposeful misdirections. um that's what makes it hard. It's such a massive case. I think that's why I instead went down the Abraham Lincoln assassination. It wasn't so many people. It wasn't so saturated with that many folks. But I mean, you do find parallels, even with the Lincoln and Kennedy assassinations. One of my favorite ones that I like to tell people is, Lincoln got killed, or I'm sorry, Lincoln got killed at Ford's Theater, and Kennedy got killed in a Ford Lincoln.
Yeah, I
So
know.
and then there's so many of those similarities with the JFK and Lincoln assassination that it's insane. But yeah, I'm super super looking forward to it. And today I wanted to ask you definitely some moon landing stuff, because that I think for my show, people over the years have gotten to know that my favorite subjects are moon landings, the alleged moon landings, obviously the Lincoln assassination, 9/11. Those seem to be my bread and butter, if you will, some of my favorite, more niche subjects. But the I think the moon landing for me, anyways, especially lately, it, I don't know what it is. I think for me, I'm fascinated in it, but I'm starting to lose that desire for a couple of different reasons. It's obviously fake. Uh, it's so damn fake. I look at the old footage from that they have, and it's clearly manufactured, not real at all. And so that's one of them. But then the other thing is, I get troubled that with the whole flat earth, not flat earth communities fighting each other. I'm like, I feel like I'm in the middle watching the two sides fight. And then if I say one thing, one side will attack me as being the other. And then if I say another thing, the other side will attack me of being the other. I was in Dr. Raza's group, and a couple of the guys were calling me a flat earther. I'm like, what are you talking about? When have
Yeah.
I ever said that I was a flat earther? And
Yeah.
they had no answer. They just kept calling me a flat earther. And I'm an admin there. I was tempted to just kick them out. I I stopped myself. I just left the conversation. But that kind of shit annoys me. And I think we kind of touched on it last episode as well. But it's just, I don't have any problem with people that ascribe to flat Earth, but this constant demonization by both sides. They both do it. It's not just one side against the other. They both hurl crap at each other, and my way of viewing the earth is the only correct way to view it. Well, my way is the only way to look at it, and it's ridiculous. It almost becomes childish, and it to be honest with you, it kind of turns into a turnoff for me. Personally speaking, I don't know how you feel about it.
Yeah, I'm really kind of on the same wavelength. I'll tell you why. First of all, immediately what came to mind was when you were talking there, Marcus Allen, and by the way, Marcus Allen sends his wishes to you, his best wishes.
And I love Marcus Allen.
Yeah, I just did a video with him a few days ago. So it's been a while since I've been able to connect with him because I was recovering from a back injury, so I couldn't really do podcasts. But he came to mind. But I have to, because he's, as far as I'm concerned, Marcus Allen is the authority on the Apollo moon missions. When it comes to anything you want to know, he's your go-to source. If you can watch a video with Marcus Allen in it regarding the Apollo moon missions and a lot of other subjects, but we're just talking about the Apollo moon missions right now, he's really your go-to source. He's just a walking encyclopedia of information when it comes to that. But I kind of have to agree with you in a lot of what you just said, Weezy, is I'm starting to wane on it, not so much the subject itself, and this may sort of upset some of my own community as well, but I'm getting a little fed up with the infighting that's going on as well. As you said something very interesting earlier, both sides. Well, you've got, let's liken it to the far right and the far left. I mean, they're both responsible. I mean, they're both just as bad as the other when it comes to, and I'm not trying to politicize this. I'm just using that as an example to create that sort of, one side over here, one side over there. We have that in the Apollo moon community as well. And we have politics trickling through on that as well. I don't give a damn if you're a flat earther or not. I don't care. I'm not. You can believe, to the viewers out there, you can believe what you want. I'm not here to tell you what to believe. If you believe the earth is flat, then if it turns your crank, go for it. I really don't care. It doesn't incite anger in me that you believe that, but I find some of my community, it does incite anger, and I don't know why. Right. Yeah. And then I hear the argument from my community, well, it's because they're using it to discredit us. Well, so what? The point is that the fact that you're calling the Apollo moon missions fake is discrediting us anyway. So you think you're going to win any people over, right? So I don't understand why we in my community get so upset when a flat earther. I agree with you though; they get nasty, and I kick them off as well. I just don't bother with them. But I mean, I've been interviewed by a flat earther, right, several years ago, and I did have an agreement with him. I asked him to leave the flat earth subject out of it because I don't believe the earth is flat. Of course, I'm from, you want to call me from the old school. I'm trained in conventional physics, being a pilot, so on and so forth. So I'm satisfied that the earth is a sphere. But he interviewed me, this flat earther, and he was gracious. He kept the flat earth out of the whole thing. We just talked about the Apollo moon missions, and he talked about it within the context of the earth being a sphere, right? So I find, if you want to believe in the flat earth society, or the earth is flat, go for it. All right, go for it. But if you're going to use that to try to discredit me, well, that's where it gets a little bit annoying. And I agree with you. I don't want anything to do with you. But I can have a conversation with you. If you're a flat earther and you want to talk about the Apollo moon missions and you leave the flat earth out of it, we can talk. Right? So I don't understand why. Yeah, and I don't understand why people and I might, ruffle a few feathers saying this, but people within my own community, I'm pointing a finger at you. Stop it. So what? So what if he's a flat earther? I've seen people lose the argument only because they've allowed their tempers to take over because there's a flat Earth on the other end. So I'm kind of at the point now where I think we've done a lot to, if not prove, we've certainly done a lot to get people thinking about the fact that the Apollo missions were indeed faked. And I got
Yeah,
some information now that I'm going to kind of reveal in a few minutes. I got some new information that just got me thinking. This came right from the mainstream media,
yeah,
but you know, I all I'm asking people to do is to do your own research. And Weezy, you say this all the time: do your own research, do your own thinking, and don't let anybody tell you how to think, and don't let anybody tell you what to read and what not to read. Do it for yourselves, become your own person, and then decide for yourselves what you feel is right and what isn't right, and then go from there. Don't get
yeah,
upset with me, and don't get upset with Marcus Allen or anyone else for that matter, because they have a belief that is contrary to your belief. That's not what we're here for. There's 8 billion people on this earth, and there's room for everybody's opinion. And if you don't like somebody else's opinion, you're perfectly free to say that. But then to get angry at the person for having an opinion, again, so what if someone thinks the earth is flat? I don't care. It doesn't bother me.
yeah. I definitely echo that. Yeah, I mean, same thing with people that um I gave you that little anecdote in Raz's Facebook group where some of the people in there were attacking me as a flat earther. They know that I have my show and they automatically were just throwing me that label. And I almost get the sense that people that do that, people that question the moon landings but abhor or are scared of the flat earth stuff, I I feel like they're trying to appease the normies. And in my mind, the way I look at it, anyways, it looks hilarious. You guys are trying to kiss their ass when they call you guys a flat earther. So you guys are doing the same thing to me that these guys are doing to you. And in all reality, I probably relate more to the flat earther than these normie clowns that are probably fully boosted and jabbed, and don't believe in other conspiracies. I probably relate hella more to a flat earther in all reality, if you really want to take it that far,
Yeah.
and that's just my own take. That's the way I was musing about as I was getting ready for this conversation. Yeah, it's funny, and we are going to take calls. So after we get through our little uh, good stuff here in this conversation, and you guys want to jump in, anyone is welcome. If you got some criticisms, maybe you believe in the moon landings and you think we really landed on the moon. I'm going to pull up a comment that someone left me. Someone was being very, very critical. And so I want to bring these questions up to Randy and see if we can address them on here. But you brought up another thing that I fully agree with. We all are entitled to our own opinions. Right now we are battling censorship. Censorship is coming from all directions, heaviest among them our own governments. And so when we try to censor our fellow human being, that's garbage. You're doing
Yeah.
exactly what the government is doing. So we are all entitled to our own opinions and conclusions, doing our own research. One of my favorite things are debates. I love a good debate. I love to engage in debates with people that think differently or view certain things very differently. Not because I want to show off, well, maybe a little bit part of that, but I want to put my beliefs to the test against someone that has a polar different viewing the world than me. I want to put my ideas. I want to make sure if I feel so comfortable in what I believe in, I definitely want to debate them. I want to put someone that doesn't believe the way I believe here, bring it on. And so I'm going to put the StreamYard. If at any time something bothers you that me or Randy say, the StreamYard's going to be there. I want you to call in. It's not going to get aggressive. We don't have to be yelling and arguing, but let's hear it. Let's talk about it. I feel we get closer to truth when two people that are being honest. This person is being honest, person A, person B is being honest, and they're both putting their forward their best arguments and let the audience digest it and see who put the better performance. Now, debates, that's what a good debate should always be come down to. Unfortunately, a lot of times debates get into ad hominem attacks and theatrics and little sneaky little things like MC Toon likes to pull, and maybe that could segue into that. What are your thoughts on that, Randy?
Yeah, you said something again very interesting. You can identify with the flat Earth theorist, and not because you have any belief that he or she does, but they're on the fringe of society in terms of their thinking, and so are you. And I guess to a degree, I am too. All of us that are questioning the narrative, we're on the fringe of society when it comes to that. And then what do we do in our own community? We politicize it. We have people within my own Apollo Moon Hoax community who I respect greatly and I admire the work they've done, but leave the politics out of it. Right versus left. There is no room for right versus left in our community. We're here to analyze the so-called science in the Apollo Moon missions and to make a determination from that science. That's what we're here. We're not here to say, I hate Trump or I like Trump or whatever the case may be. I despise all politics. I despise all politicians. Let's get that right now out on the table, out in the open. I would not vote for any of them. As George Carlin famously said, it's a big club and you ain't in it. And I don't want to be in it. I don't want to be in it. I don't like it when our community gets involved in this. And I've seen my own community politicize this. So it really, and that takes away from the discussion. And there's nothing more that's going to discredit you than getting into politics. All right. Because you've already alienated half your readership when you do that. Right. Because you're always going to have 50% are going to agree with you and the other 50% are not going to agree with you. Right. When you get into politics, if you want to run a political channel, go ahead, run it. All right. But you know what you're into. Right. And you mentioned the Raza debate with MC Toon. I watched that debate and I'm being very objective here. All right. I have a lot of respect for Raza. He does a lot of good work, but that debate did not go well for him, in my opinion. That debate, and he's done this now, I think 3 times, if I'm not mistaken, he's been on there. And the reason why it has not gone well for Raza is not because he didn't win. I think he put forward some very good information. I mean, he presented it really well, but MC Toon is not there to debate the validity of the Apollo Moon missions. He's there to squash you, right? He's there to throw you off and discredit you in any which way he can. This is why he won't debate anybody outside that channel. And I'm talking about modern day debate channel. They have a set of rules and you have to follow their rules. Oh, who the fuck said I have to follow anyone's rules? I've been in debates myself. I've actually got a debate. I should send you the link for the debate I was in with a pro Apollo Moon, a pro NASA. And it wasn't a debate in so much, it was a discussion and it went really well. And it's posted on another link, a channel, and I'll send it to you after. But it was just like, we had a really good discussion. He knew, him and I have been going back and forth on this for years. And we debated we had a moderator. He agreed to the moderator. We both did. And it was a very, I would say, fruitful discussion. He put forward, he actually admitted that, he is open to certain ideas in terms of what we're presenting. But MC Toon doesn't do that. MC Toon looks to discredit you. And the other thing he does too, which I find kind of amusing and a little childish on his part, is he panders to his opponent. Oh, I still like you, Raz. Sure, I'll do another debate. Like he's doing him a favor. Right. Yeah. And so if I don't understand why we go on channels like that, because you're not going to win because they boxed you in with these rules. And he even has a book on how to debate that he sends his opponents, and he won't debate them unless they read that book. Screw your book, MC Toon. I will never read it, and I won't go by your rules either.
Yeah, he's a clown. Someone like that, you have to match their aggression, and I feel I can match his aggression. I've had several debates, discussions on different topics. I had one discussion with a guy. He's got like 400,000, maybe 500,000 Twitter followers. Uh, you may have seen some of his pictures. He takes telescopic pictures of the universe and stars, beautiful images, but I wonder how real they are. But this is what this kid does. And I messaged him. I go, "Hey, would you be willing to have a discussion?" And I thank him for that, because I mean, he's got a massive audience, huge stuff, and he took me up, and we had the discussion on my channel. But one of the things that we both agreed on, we were not going to get technical. We were just going to have a discussion. Tell me why you believe this way, and you tell me why you believe. And that's what the rules were. And then towards the end, he started trying to get technical. I'm like, come on, man, we were doing so good. But he was starting to get a little triggered, because he brought up, this was one of his pieces of evidence as to why we landed on the moon. His grandpa worked on the space program, and his grandpa wouldn't lie to him. I'm like, that's your best piece of evidence, bro?
No.
And I think he kind of got offended, with me questioning, and the thing is, something like that, I can't remember. It's been so long since we recorded that, but something like that, the space program was compartmentalized. So just because you worked in a specific department, maybe you worked in the spacesuits, maybe you worked in this and that, doesn't mean you knew that you were working on a damn hoax. For all you knew, you thought you were actually making real stuff for the real mission. And this is what a lot of people don't understand. But for the most part, that was a good discussion. Going back to MC Toon, someone like that, you have to match his aggression. And I have a feeling if I ever had to debate with him, debate him on stuff, I would call him out on his little antics that he likes to do. He likes to find little parts that you don't know very much about. Oh, you don't know? I did my homework. How come you don't know it? You don't know it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so you have to do the same thing with him. You bring up something that he has no, like Raza could have got him when he was talking about the radiation on the moon. There was 3 different types, and MC Toon had no idea what they were. And so Raza, like, what? You don't know there's radiation on the moon? He could have done the same. You have to match the same intensity, the same. If he's being an asshole, you have to be even a bigger asshole. And so I have a feeling if I ever got a chance with MC Toon, I would make him rage quit. He would just turn off the computer and just leave, throwing a little hissy fit, because I'm the king. I'm one of the kings in ad hominem attacks. If you're going to pull out ad hominems, I'm going to make you cry. Call me any name in the book, but I'm going to make you cry, and I'm going to make you rage quit. So, and unfortunately, those are more debates for views, clicks and views, and modern day debate kind of loves that style. That's what they like. They like one person being condescending towards the other. It keeps it lively and stuff like that. It's for clicks and views, but you're not going to get an honest conversation. I do agree. Raza had some good points. Unfortunately, I told this Raza when I had him on a couple of weeks ago. I go, I just don't feel you have the style. You're too nice. A couple times when he was attacking you, you should have smacked his ass back.
Yeah.
Because if you don't do that, he's just going to keep doing it more and more and more. And he's going to get more uncomfortable. And then making that little laugh, making that little thing comes off as you're not sure about yourself.
Yeah.
Even though you had some good points, it comes off as you weren't prepared. And so if you're going to debate, you also have to be ready for those kind of things. You know what I mean? And that's what makes debates tricky, because someone could have the truth on their side, but they don't know how to communicate or verbalize their ideas very good. The other guy may be full of shit, but he's a showman.
Yeah.
He knows, and that could appear to give them the edge and make them appear to have won, when in reality, that's not the case.
Yeah. Yeah, and that is exactly his style. But I noticed too, on that debate channel, modern day debate channel, the moderator, they're very biased. I mean, they have a bias before they even agree to the subject. They're very conventional in their thinking, or at least in their approach, right? You don't have a chance when you go on that channel. You're boxed in with rules. The only way is to end the argument. Now, I was I found myself actually almost yelling at Raza in the debate to hit him back, kick him, right? Get him back. It had to be me. That's exactly. I would have demolished him. I would have actually come back at him. I'm not here for the fucking third degree. Okay, you want to talk about the Apollo missions? Don't start questioning my knowledge. Okay, that's not what we're here for. All right, we're here to talk and have a discussion like adults. But the thing with MC Toon is the likes of MC Toon. He's like a child. He throws a temper tantrum. Have you noticed when things don't go his way, he gets really not only nasty with his opponent, but he starts getting nasty with the moderator. I've noticed that. And I'm wondering who owns the channel here, right?
Well, it's clicks and views, and MC Toon has a pretty good little following. That's why a lot of times the comment section will be all pro MC Toon stuff and whatnot. I did make one comment on there, basically bringing up my little quote that I made up where it goes something along the lines, and it got a lot of likes, even though I knew it was a pro MC Toon crowd in the comment sections. It was one of the more liked comments on that thread, and it was that one quote that I came up with where it goes something along the lines: NASA made the extraordinary claim that man landed on the moon. The evidence to support this extraordinary claim is flimsier than the lunar lander itself. and that was one of the more liked little bits of in the comment section. But it's, I listened back to our last conversation, episode 254, and we brought back the F1 engines, and I want to bring back the F1 engines for all those that may have missed it. But the more I think about it, this is another reason why I'm kind of getting deflated with the moon stuff. I'm like, we focus too much on these little details, and well, that could easily be, that's hard to tell if that was fake or not. That could have been real. Like, they get caught up with so much bullshit. Let's focus on the F1 engines.
Yeah.
If you don't have the fucking engines to take you to the goddamn moon, everything else is besides the point.
Yeah.
There's no need to waste arguing about this, arguing about the shadows, arguing whether the fucking flag waved, on the moon, or if it was a fan that was placed in the fucking studio. You don't have to worry about that any longer.
Yeah.
You have to show me the money. Show me the F1 engine plans. Show me that shit. Yeah. And then we can go on to further other parts of the whole Apollo missions. But I like to keep things simple, man. And I do this with so many other things. Like, if you don't have a big piece right off the gate, why the hell do I need to focus on these other stupid little things? You know what I'm saying? And I try to, I want to stay on this, but I do this with so many things these days. A couple days ago, we had a shooting in DC.
Yeah.
As soon as I heard Trump talking, JD Vance, I'm like, false flag. And then I do a little bit of research. Turns out the guy was trained by intelligence, Kandahar, and I'm like, here we go. So it's just little things like that. I've already learned to put my BS meter. As soon as I hear certain little things, I don't have to go too far deep anymore. I already know it's full of shit right off the bat. And so let's go back to the F1 engines, because I definitely want to hammer it home. And if you've already heard this a couple of times, maybe you missed it the first or second times, but this is a huge, I believe, the smoking gun, man.
Yeah.
I really believe this is the smoking gun. If you don't have the hardware to take you, you have no goddamn moon missions, period.
Yeah, absolutely right. So, in other words, if you don't have the engines to get the rocket off the launch pad, then everything else is mute. And that goes for what you just mentioned in terms of the thousands of photographic and film evidence. Because the problem with that argument is, and my own research community has done some good work on that. I would never take anything away from them in terms of the work they've done on the photographic evidence. Marcus Allen especially, who has talked about how film, because remember back then it wasn't digital, it was film that they were using, wouldn't work in a vacuum. You'd have, emulsion from the film, and the photos would be distorted, to say the least. But the problem with overall with that argument is that NASA can manipulate and update the photographic and film evidence. I mean, they can do anything now. They were doing it 20 years ago, and they're still doing it today. And they'll come back and say, no, that's not true. This is what it's really, this is the actual photo, so on and so forth. They can manipulate, but not so with the F1 engines. The F1 engines were an integral part of the Apollo missions. Without the F1 engines, and I'll explain just a little bit for the viewer, the F1 engines were in the first stage of the Saturn V rocket. There were 3 stages. The F1 engine was in the first stage. Okay, it had 5 F1 engines. The second stage was the J2 engines, and the third stage also had a J2 engine. Okay, but it's not, forget about the first stage and the second stage. Let's just stick with the first stage of the Saturn V rocket. That's where the all-important F1 engines were. They were needed to get that rocket and its hardware off the launch pad, right? To get it off the launch pad, to get it into low Earth orbit, not so much to get it into low Earth, but to get it into a high enough altitude, which I believe was about 40 miles off the ground, to then jettison the F1 engines. From there, they were able to jettison using the J2 engines in the second stage of the Saturn V. That's just to get it into low Earth orbit, to get it on a trajectory so as they can have, their mission to the moon and land a person on the moon. If they can't get that rocket off the ground using the F1 engines, and if there was a slight adjustment or a fault, and if one of the engines were not firing properly or didn't get full thrust, you have you're not going to be, you might be able to make low Earth orbit. I don't know, but you're going to have probably most likely you're going to have to abort before you even reach orbit. So without the F1 engines, you have no Apollo moon landing. And that for me was what really stood out for me. And I was researching this 5-6 years ago, right? Now, here's the thing. The F1 engines were already in existence before the Apollo program was announced back in 1961. The F1 engines, the military was working on that at the time, and they were trying to get, build a big, powerful engine. It was the most powerful engine of its time, still is to this day, right? So to put it in perspective, the average rocket engine produces about 200,000 pounds of thrust. That's one rocket engine. One F1 engine produces 1.5 million pounds of thrust.
God damn.
Yeah.
1.5 million.
Yeah.
And didn't you say it was supposed to lift up like 3,000 tons?
Yes. So you needed 5 of these F1 engines. So for a combined total of 7.5 million pounds of thrust compared to the average 1.5 million pounds of thrust to launch a rocket, you needed 7.5 million pounds of thrust to lift a 3,000-ton rocket, which is the size of an average destroyer at sea.
Yes. I mean, that is just mind-boggling weight. To make it, I guess, more visual for people.
Yeah.
An African elephant, I've carried heavy weight. The heaviest weight I've ever picked up was 40 tons. An elephant weighs anywhere between 4 to 6 tons.
Yeah.
A massive African elephant is 7-8 tons. I'm talking about the massive dudes with the big old ears and the 5 legs walking around through the jungles. One of those guys weighs 7 to 8 tons. And this rocket weighed 3,000 tons? Now picture how many African elephants worth of weight to pick up this damn thing. One damn elephant is heavy as shit. Just one of them. I mean, that way people can visualize 3,000 tons. That is so much weight that I think the average person doesn't really can really visualize how much that is.
Yeah, and that 3,000 tons includes the rocket fully loaded with its propellant, and the 46 tons that you would have had with the Apollo command module, service module, and lunar module together, right? And that 7.5 million pounds of thrust within the first 2 minutes of launch had to work perfectly to get that rocket, the Saturn V, to an altitude of 40 miles, where they jettison the first stage and the F1 engines so as they can boost it into a parking orbit. That's just to get it. So let's forget about the orbit. Let's forget about going into orbit for just a second. Let's just talk about the F1 engine. Its purpose was is to get it to an altitude of 40 miles, 3,000 tons. If there was, let's say, it was only producing 7 million pounds of thrust, it would not have made it to 40-mile altitude. Therefore, you would not have had an Apollo moon mission. If there was any anomaly with the F1 engines, any one of the F1 engines, you most likely would have had to abort the mission. That actually happened when they tested, excuse me, they did 2 unmanned tests of the Saturn V using the F1 engines. The second unmanned test was a disaster. Engineers working on the program at the time said if there had been a crew on board Apollo 6, which was launched empty except for the propellant, it didn't have the Apollo hardware on board, but it had the F1 engines. Of course, they were testing them. One or two of the engines started misfiring, so it started creating a vibration along the longitudinal axis of the rocket, and the vibration became so severe that it could have killed the astronauts. They would have had to abort. And you can see the disaster happening. They actually have film footage of this. You could see the disaster happening when there's a huge plume of flame coming out of the first stage where the F1 engines were when Apollo 6 was launched. And that indicated kerosene was being burned because they were using kerosene and liquid oxygen in the first stage for the F1 engines. So it was a disaster. And on that basis alone, now they say they launched a mission before that and it was perfect. So on that basis alone, they launched a crew, the first man crew on Apollo Saturn V, 7 months later, doing modifications to the F1 engines without any further testing, either ground or in the air. They never retested that. They just put a crew on board and hoped the hell it worked perfectly. And lo and behold, it did. Right? And here's the thing. I mentioned earlier that the military was actually in charge of this. They were developing the F1 engines. This is back in 1959. The military are on record of having, they were able to get I don't even think it was 1.5 million. I think they were able to get 1 million pounds of thrust out of the F1 engine for a millisecond. They were only able to sustain it for a millisecond. That's on record. After Kennedy announced actually, it was before Kennedy, Eisenhower, after he announced when he brought into existence NASA, he transferred the F1 engine from military authority over to NASA authority, and it was Rocketdyne, a corporation that was building the F1 engines. Now, here's what gets really interesting, because this really amazes me. And I just mentioned, keep in mind what I just mentioned about the military being able to get 1 million pounds of thrust for 1 millisecond. And that's, by the way, when the engine bolted down on the ground. That's called a static test. So it's not even an air test, or it's not even an in-flight test. When it came out in the 1980s that all the telemetry tapes for the Apollo missions went missing, turned out to be destroyed, all of the telemetry data for the F1 engines were on those tapes. Isn't it convenient that they no longer exist?
Yeah. Yeah. It seems to add up. You know, I want to ask you down the line what you think about nukes, because I've been doing a little research on it, and a lot of this, I don't know where I lean, but I understand why people think that nukes are fake.
Yeah.
And there's so many similarities to the NASA moon landings.
Yeah.
They lost the plans to make those bombs, and they only worked that one time in that period in time, and they've never been used ever again. Same thing like with the moon landings. We were able to land those times, but we haven't been able to replicate. So many similarities. So That's what that reminds me of. Yeah, conveniently losing the all the plans to on how they made those exquisite marvels of hardware that just can't be replicated. Gosh darn it.
Yeah.
uh, it's truly fascinating. I guess, and I'm sorry, did I were you wrapping up the F1 engine?
Me?
Yeah.
No, I think the point, just to finish that off, I think the point
Yeah.
is, NASA doesn't have any. The pro NASA apologists will come forward and say, well, they have all that data, but that data is a printout. And how do you know it's not a computer printout? Because NASA ran many simulations, and they printed out those simulations. So you have nothing to substantiate that data. You have no evidence to back up that data. And so,
Yeah.
Weezy, what you said earlier, and I want to get into the nukes because I find that fascinating too. Weezy, what you said earlier was, you don't have to get into the science to realize that the science is fake. If they're destroying evidence, the most important evidence being the telemetry tapes and the telemetry data from the NASA missions, not just the F1 engines, but all of the data was on those telemetry tapes. We're talking NASA alone. Apollo 11 had 14,000 reels of telemetry tapes that had gone missing.
Yeah.
And these reels are the size of an average car steering wheel. These are big reels.
Yeah.
14,000.
Mm.
Add another zero on that. For the whole missions, it's about 140,000 reels of telemetry tapes went missing and are presumed destroyed. And when I discovered that, that in itself blew my mind, because you can't lose 140,000 reels. You need like several warehouses to put that stuff in, right? You can't lose that. You don't lose that information. And then the argument from the and I'll finish it off here. The argument from the defenders of the Apollo missions was, well, because they had run out of tape and they had to tape over, they had to reuse that tape. Bullshit. Come on, use your common sense. We're talking about, first of all, that's not true, because I looked into that even deeper. And even NASA admits that the tapes went missing in the early 1970s. The shortage didn't happen to the mid 1980s. So that argument is out the window. That doesn't hold up. Second of all, you're talking about man's greatest scientific achievement of the 20th century, and you're going to tape over it with a comedy show. I mean, that doesn't hold water either, right? Yeah, none of it holds water. And the problem with these apologists is they just do not want to use their common sense, right? They're not using
man's greatest achievement. Man's greatest achievement. The stuff that gives pride to these NASA apologists. This is the stuff that, of America exceptionalism right there on display in 1969.
Yeah.
And you recorded over the original tapes.
Yeah.
You erased them to save money. I thought the space program took a percentage of the GDP at the moment in time. This is what you guys always tell me. This is why we can't go back, because back then they were spending so much money, but they were trying to save a couple of bucks, so they had to erase over the original footage. It's so laughable and it's absurd. And how people that believe in this nonsense can tell you this with a straight face, is beyond me. I mean, come on, man. This is what you aspire to. You're the NASA apologist. This is what brings you pride. Come on, man. You have to realize that that's a laughable excuse to record over original telemetry data and original tapes and all that stuff. There's no good excuse for it.
Yeah.
It's absurd.
There is no excuse for it. And, but you see, the thing is, and this is the very interesting thing, Weezy, is that when it comes to the photographic film and the photographs and the film, NASA can manipulate that narrative because they can sort of tweak it here, tweak it there. They can update it, but you can't do that with the F1 engines. NASA has to own that. They have to own it, and they have to justify why there was no testing of the F1 engines before they put a crew on board. And they have to justify why there's no data left, why the data was destroyed. It's very much like what you mentioned with the Manhattan Project. They have to justify that. They can't cover that up. That's a fact. And that's where their argument breaks down. And NC Toon wouldn't have an argument for that. He would justify it, and he would have to justify it. First of all, he'd have to own it. And second of all, he'd have to justify it.
Yeah.
I don't know why Rasta never brings that up with him, but that would be a very valid point. Is that he said, well, we have the data. No, we don't have the data. NASA doesn't have any
Yeah.
validation of that data. They have no proof of that data. Gene Kranz.
I would show him that screenshot
Yeah.
from the Associated Press
Yes.
from 2009. NASA admits that they deleted all that original stuff. So yeah, when people say that we do have the telemetry data, these NASA pilots, it's a crock of shit. Show me this telemetry data. Show me the original stuff.
Yeah.
If they're gonna say that we do have it, you have to take them to task. Okay, show it to me. Where is it? Where is it at?
Exactly. And the thing is too, one of the flight engineers, he was directing the Apollo 13 mission, supposedly directing the Apollo 13 mission. We know it's fake. Gene Kranz, he's on record saying that they ran so many simulations of actual Apollo missions that the flight engineers in Houston, mission control, were not able to tell the difference between a simulation and a real mission. What does that tell you? It tells you they could have easily faked it even for their own people.
Yeah.
Right?
Isn't that what happened on 9/11 too? Where
Yeah.
the reason they couldn't deploy fighter planes was because they thought it was a simulation. They weren't sure if it was real or not.
It was
It's
the
the same script.
playbook. Yes.
It's the same script.
Yeah.
Over and over, man.
Yeah.
This is what I mean. Once you see little things, you're like, oh God, here we go again. I've already heard this story play out.
Yeah.
It's over. It's the same shit, man.
It is. It is. And
Yeah.
even with 9/11, just for a second with 9/11, being a pilot, I have never flown the airliners, but being a pilot, I know a lot about them, right? And I've flown, single engine, twin engine aircraft, but you learn a lot about airlines because, you just learn about, you have an interest in planes. So you learn all about that. And I know that it was a Boeing 757 or Boeing 767 that supposedly flew into the 9/11 towers at approximately 500 miles per hour. That's impossible at 1,000 feet above ground. It cannot fly that fast. It has to be at a higher altitude to fly that fast. So that's a little fact in and of itself right there, that that was fake. And another point is the Muhammad Atta, the so-called ringleader of the
he lived out here in Venice, in my hometown.
Yeah, and I've seen you talk about him, and I found that very interesting. I was watching one of your podcasts a short while ago, and I remember you talking about him.
I had a friend that did some cocaine with him.
Yeah, and these are the people that masterminded.
Well, and we're told that they were devout Muslim extremists, super religious, and they were going to strip bars and doing cocaine.
Yeah.
Completely opposite of what the official narratives were telling us, with these guys. It's all a ruse.
And he's supposed to have, now, when he supposedly got his license from the Florida flight school, he was, even though he was certified, I think he was certified commercial, he was such a bad pilot, they refused to rent him a plane, which made no sense to me.
His girlfriend alleges that he would fly. He was making rounds to South America and bringing in cocaine to the Venice airport.
Yeah.
I think the pilot, the one that for sure had, there was one that was crying during like simulations. That was Hani Hanjour, the guy that allegedly crashed into the Pentagon. Hani Hanjour. Some of his trainers, when they were flying up in the air, he started weeping and crying. He was so scared of flying. But this is the guy that on the morning of 9/11 took the plane, did a corkscrew up, with a commercial air jetliner, should have fell apart. But this is what we're told happened.
Yeah.
And then hit the Pentagon right in the accounting department. I was there a few months ago. Let me see if I can show you. I was there a few months ago to the Pentagon building, and I was like, I have I have uh I have talked about the Pentagon building ad nauseum on my show, but I had never been there. And I was like, I don't think a plane ever hit the Pentagon building.
Yeah, I agree.
Now that I've been there first hand at the site, I am 100% sure. Before it was like, well, I haven't been there, but I'm like 99%, whatever. No, there is no question. And let me show you this video that I took when I was there um, in April when I went for the 160 year Lincoln assassination anniversary. All right, let's play this. So there's a highway over there. This is the Pentagon Memorial. There's little benches, little tracks, and the tracks lead you directly right where the camera is centered. You see this area? This is where that hole was right here.
Yeah.
Can you see my cursor?
Yeah.
And the reason you can tell, you can't really tell on the video footage, but right there, you can see the discoloring. Like,
Yeah, I could see it slightly. Yeah.
Yeah, they try to match it with the rest of the building.
Yeah.
But this is where the infamous thing. So these little benches that they put out here represent the people that died allegedly. And there's a bench, and they all, boom, like the shadows, they all go to that little spot right here where the little tree is.
Yeah.
That's where it hit. So that's the context there.
Right there is the alleged crash site.
I'm gonna go
little pine tree to the left.
I think I panned back around.
3 wooden doors. That is the apparent crash site. And as you can see, it's not a very tall building. And if we come back up and around, there's a highway right there.
You can't see because of these trees right here, but there's a highway right here, a highway overpass. You can start to see the a little bit right here. This is a highway overpass. Okay. That is literally a couple 100 feet away. And so, Randy, let's go back. Look at that.
Yeah.
A couple 100 feet away from here's the highway overpass right here.
Yeah.
And you can see all the tracks. That's the official story telling you it came through here.
Yeah.
And if you look at the footage, there was no grass marks there. No grass marks. There was no grass marks. Only a hole here. How the hell
that was not a plane?
Does a plane that big clear that amount of space, flying in at 500 miles an hour, whatever the hell they said it was, and hit a perfect hole? It totally avoiding the freeway overpass, totally avoiding that. The official story is 100% bullshit, man.
Oh yeah, talk about precision flying. I mean, even a precision pilot couldn't do that. Not with an airliner. Not with an airliner. Yeah.
But I mean, when you take into consideration the highway overpass in the back, the length of the commercial jetliner flying at the rate of speed, it's going to be covering that in no time.
Yeah.
So how the hell did it miss all that other shit?
Yeah.
But hits perfectly in that.
You're right.
Complete nonsense. It doesn't make any sense.
Exactly. You're right. It would have to be at a very low trajectory, way out, in order to be that precise coming in. It would have had to hit cars on the way in.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. I never bought it, but once I was there in person, observing it, taking it all in, and just putting on my little makeshift detective hat, I'm like, there's no fucking way that's even plausible. And then it got me thinking, this is why they said he took a corkscrew fly upwards and came down. That's why they had to add that in, because they knew that if you took it any other way, there's no way it hits.
Exactly. And also, to put it into perspective too, I remember at the time the official narrative was saying that they had, Cessna training from a flight school. They all had licenses, and they had 1 hour, and this is the official version. They had 1 hour training in a simulator flying straight and level commercial airliners, or 757 or 767, straight and level. That's according to the official narrative. And that they had about 200 or so hours of flying time, or 300 hours of flying time at the time. I, at that time, had double that experience. I had a twin engine rating. I had an instrument rating, and even I knew I couldn't do what we were told that those pilots did. And I had flown several hours in a flight simulator on Boeing 747s. And I still could not do what we're told that these pilots can do. And this is what I'm talking about when you go back to using your common sense. Your common sense tells you it's a red flag. There's a red flag here. Your common sense tells you that, but you get shot down by the likes of apologists who like to throw you off your game, like MC Toon. He doesn't want to talk about the fact. He just wants to discredit you in any which way we can, or when it comes to flat earthers doing the same thing, right? So when I say to people, do your own research, do your own reading, do your own thinking, you decide. You decide.
Yeah. I want to ask you a fun one. And it's still 9/11. This is something that I laughed at for the longest time in 9/11. You know, when people brought up no planes hitting the towers, like that's complete horseshit. Of course, there's videos there. We all saw the videos of the planes hitting stuff. And then I think what's made me revisit that notion, I'm still not sold there 100%, but I'm entertaining it more seriously this time around, in large part due to AI currently. AI right now is getting pretty damn good. There's been a few AI videos that I didn't even know it was AI until someone pointed it out that it was AI. Holy shit. We're almost there, because even a year ago, you could tell an AI video because the video, the hands would have extra fingers or weird anomalies. But now a lot of that stuff is getting buffed out, and it's getting better and better. And this is out for you and I, the consumer, the public consumer. I am of the belief that whatever is out and available to us, the intelligence and military departments have probably had access to a lot of this stuff in its best form decades prior to us. So that's one of the reasons why I'm like, damn, I have to revisit a lot of stuff that I used to dismiss. There's a documentary that you can find on Odyssey. It's called September Clues. And this is, again, I want to show you this and see what you think. I want to show you this clip because it starts up. They're trying to lay down a case that a lot of the footage that we saw live was probably pre-recorded, kind of like in the NASA stuff, a lot of edits. And for whatever reason, and I remember seeing this at the time, but it didn't register. I believe the official story. But for whatever reason, they black out the screen. Why are you blacking out the screen unless you're hiding something or you're editing footage? So I want you to see this, Randy. Like I said, I'm still not 100% sold, but it was something I used to laugh and dismiss for the longest time. But now I'm like, damn, man, I have to give it a second take. So this is September Clues. Let me see if I can get it on here. September Clues. Is that on the screen? Yeah, that's on the screen. All right, let's play this real quick.
As you look at the picture from our chopper now arriving at the scene, Jim Friedel in Hoboken said it appeared to bank sharply and smash directly, perhaps purposefully, into, oh my goodness.
Oh God.
There's another one. Oh my goodness, there's another one.
It seems to be on purpose.
Okay.
Oh my goodness.
Did you understand what we just saw right there, Randy?
Yeah, I saw that blackout.
Well, not only that. Okay, let's go. I'm trying to start where the helicopter first started recording, because so the helicopter is a distance out, okay?
Yeah.
And then there's no planes.
Yeah.
Then he zooms in.
Yeah, I get it.
and then
They
the
would
plane
have seen that. They
appears?
would have seen. Yeah, they would have seen
What
that
the
plane coming
fuck?
before we saw it on
Yes.
camera. Yeah.
Yes.
And they didn't, and that you're right. They would have
Look-
seen that plane. They would have been a warning. They would have seen it miles out.
Yeah,
As you
look
look
at this.
at the
Where's the
picture
plane
from
out
our
here?
chopper now
Yeah.
arriving at
Yeah.
the
Where's
scene,
the plane?
Jim Friedel in Hoboken
Where's the plane?
said it appeared to back sharply
So they
and
zoom in,
smash
and then here comes the plane.
directly, perhaps purposefully,
Yeah.
into, oh my goodness,
Oh, God.
there's another one.
Oh my goodness!
Oh,
Well,
my
he didn't
goodness,
have
there's
any
another
passion
one.
in saying
Seems to
it.
be on purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's an hour and a half. If anyone's
Yeah.
interested in that little rabbit hole, it's called September Clues, because it's not just this footage. There's tons. They make a damn compelling case. It's an hour and a half. They
Now
make
that's
a
a
damn
very
good
interesting
case.
shot. That's a very interesting shot because you would have seen that aircraft way out.
Yeah.
You could see that aircraft coming from miles. I mean, air traffic controllers monitor airplanes coming in from several miles out when they're on final approach. Not
It
just,
only pops in when they zoom in. It's when the
Exactly.
plane all of a sudden. It doesn't make any sense.
it doesn't make any sense because the pilot flying that helicopter would have been doing a visual because that's what they do. Because right there, he's flying on visual rules, not instrument rules. Okay. And when you're flying on visual rules, you are responsible for separating yourself from other traffic. So he would have been monitoring the skies and making sure there's no other traffic in the area. He would have seen that jet coming 2 or 3 minutes before it actually entered the frame.
And remember,
It caught me
Even
off
the-
guard, Weezy, because I haven't seen this particular shot before, but now,
Yeah.
makes sense.
in the 9/11 Commission report, how does it start? It was a clear blue sky, something along those lines. That morning of 9/11, clear blue skies, no clouds, no fog, no nothing.
Yeah.
Obviously, one tower is on smoking and on fire, okay, but that does. I mean, it's still a clear freaking sky. So as the helicopter is a ways out, you don't see any damn plane anywhere. And then until it zooms in, all of a sudden the plane hits in. And so what these guys do later on in that documentary, they show how you could do it with movie magic, some of the frames. Now, could it have been a Scud missile just like in the Pentagon, to give it that? I mean, I don't know. This is what I mean. I don't know anything these days. I simply don't know. And now that we have AI as good as it is now, how the hell aren't we so sure that they were using some kind of AI back then? And it would have been a completely foreign thing to even talk about at that point in time because it's only new to us now. You know what I'm
Exactly.
saying?
And here's what we do know, Weezy. Here's what we do know. We do know that all the cameras and all the audio comes from a mainstream media source. So we know that they were controlling it already, right? I haven't seen really, I haven't been able to verify any independent video footage of this, but most of it is mainstream media controlled. That's what we do know, right? And the other thing is when we talk about 9/11, we're talking about, I just read a comment there. I think it was from Missy T. She mentioned the pancake effect. That was the official version for the towers collapsing. That was the official version, right? The pancake effect. And but that's impossible because the pancake effect would take about maybe 60 seconds, maybe 90 seconds for that to actually happen. What happened when the buildings fell? They fell within 10 seconds, which means the buildings collapsed within free fall, which means that there was no resistance. What happened when the buildings fell? They fell. Yeah, they fell within 10 seconds, which meant they fell in free fall, which means anything from the first floor to the very top floor was vaporized.
Yeah.
So there was something very strange. Weapon. You mentioned also earlier, and I wrote this down. Before I get to that point, I want to ask everybody online: how many people are aware that there was a Category 5 hurricane 100 miles off the coast of Long Island that morning?
I had no idea.
Yeah, Hurricane.
Everyone on Rumble, we do have the Rumble. If you're on YouTube, there's only a few of you on YouTube. Come over to Rumble. I have the StreamYard link. If you guys got any questions or if you guys want to ask Randy or myself anything, we hit that StreamYard link and let's have a little fun tonight. I'm enjoying this conversation. But yeah, I had no idea that there was a hurricane there.
Yeah.
Uh,
So I looked into this. I did a bit of a deep dive on this aspect of it. There was an author that wrote a book on the very good comprehensive book, actually. Her name is Dr. Judy Wood. And she filed a Freedom of Information Act to get satellite photos released from that morning. And it turned out that there was a Category 5 hurricane 100 miles off the coast of Long Island. Now, that hurricane actually started its usual run from the around near the South Atlantic, near the Caribbean islands, and it was working its way up. And it got to, on the morning of 9/11, and I have a theory about this, so it's just a theory, but it got to the morning of 9/11, it got to 100 miles off the coast of Long Island and stopped. And it was hovering like this. And flights that day, no airline pilots were warned of a hurricane 100 miles off the coast. What about flights that were flying between Europe and New York at that point? How come no pilots were warned of that, number one? And number two, if there was a warning, all flights would have been grounded. So there would have been no planes in the air. And if there was no planes in the air that day, there would have been no 9/11 because they wouldn't have been able to falsify the hijacking of an airliner, right? Those planes would have been grounded for several hours. So there would have been no, it would have destroyed the narrative of hijacking to fly the aircraft into the towers, because technically no planes would have been flying that day because of a hurricane off the coast of Long Island. And I think it was ABC News or CBS News, one of those two networks, did mention that hurricane in the morning, an hour before the attacks on 9/11. And he said, and I'm almost quoting him here, he said, "Oh, that hurricane isn't the problem." And immediately after the attacks happened in 9/11, the hurricane then started moving northeast and then out and dissipated. That is an event that nobody's been ever able to explain. Very few people talk about, but it is a fact. How come that hurricane stopped? How come it didn't move inland? If it had to move inland, it would have thrown our whole plans of 9/11 out the window, because there would not be no airplanes in the air to hijack or to fake a hijacking, right? So that would have destroyed them. My theory is that they had some way of controlling that hurricane to prevent it from moving inland. And then when the attacks are over, they were able to manipulate that hurricane. They've had weather modification technology for decades. We all know that. And they were able to move that hurricane out of the way, and it dissipated. Now, before then and after then, every time there's a hurricane that starts forming in the South Atlantic, you're getting updates every 15 minutes on major news channels about that hurricane, what its tracking path is. There was no tracking of this hurricane for the public when it happened. They were not giving any updates on this hurricane. They just mentioned it once briefly in the morning of 9/11. Well, they might have mentioned it earlier, but they weren't tracking it. It was not big news. It was not like, you have a hurricane hovering on the coast of the eastern United States. What is the standard protocol? You have all the shoreline cities preparing for a hurricane moving in. You're taking precautions. There was no warnings. There was nothing to indicate that people should be taking precautions, moving to higher ground, getting away from the shoreline, the shoreline. And there was absolutely no precautions, no mentioning of that, except for the morning of the attacks, when a weather reporter just casually said that hurricane is not a problem. A lot of people don't know that. That's another factor in this strange event that day. There was a lot of strange things happening. That's one more strange event.
Yeah. And that's how you have beyond any reasonable doubt, you got some funny business when there's so many things. It's not just one thing. It's not just two things or three things. There's so many angles you can go come at 9/11 with, or even the moon landings. So much funny business all around. I did want to ask you about the Curiosity Mars rover. I haven't even been paying much attention to it because it's such a clown show, right?
I mean, I saw one that looked like Arizona, and I just like I don't know. You know what? Here's what I want to ask people. Okay, I want to hear somebody call in about this because I want to know. We've had unmanned missions and manned missions for what the last supposedly the last 50 years. How come we don't have an infrastructure? How come we don't have an infrastructure in Earth orbit? Not only in Earth orbit, but how come we don't have way stations from here to the moon? Why don't we have an infrastructure in lunar orbit? I mean, we're talking about unmanned and manned missions. And yep, but we can send, without any infrastructure, we can send manned missions to the moon and we can send unmanned missions to Mars. I mean, I admit now that I was going along. One of the things that our community does is they will look at that and say it's official because they believe in the Mars missions because they don't want to discredit themselves any further than they already have because they're already on record as saying that the Apollo moon missions were fake. I'm now going a little further than that, and I'm beginning to question this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't buy any of this shit.
Yeah.
Even that was one of the things, or one of the reasons why I was called a flat earther in Roz's group was because I don't buy the International Space Station stuff. There's a lot of funny business going there. I know this is what I mean. I feel sometimes people that think like us, they would rather look good for these NASA apologists and try to appease them and be respectful to them. You know what I mean? I don't want to look bad in front of those guys. I don't want to get embarrassed in front of those guys. They already look at you like a weirdo.
Sure.
Newsflash. Newsflash. Yeah. They think you're crazy for thinking that we didn't make it to the moon. So why are you trying so hard to kiss their ass? And so when I see footage from the ISS and it's glitching out and just so many weird anomalies, even with the hair movement not matching up, I get looked at from people that are serious into the moon landing as crazy for not accepting the ISS footage. Here we're looking at Curiosity Mars rover footage. This is supposed to be real footage right here.
Yeah.
This is a panorama that was stitched together from it and was sent over from the Curiosity rover. And I'm looking at this and I don't buy it.
No, I don't.
I'm sorry.
Either.
I don't buy it. It's more bullshit propaganda. This is what fuels Elon Musk into telling people that we're going to colonize Mars. people buy that shit.
Yeah.
And the way I look when I hear people buy into that, I'm like, let's first work on getting to the moon first. You know, let's take baby steps. We haven't even got to the moon yet. You know, now you want to go to Mars? Come on, man. I don't know, man. This is the stuff that drives me nuts.
Exactly. And I don't know why it is so important to people. I know actually in my own community that they seem to want to validate this in order to try and boost their credibility. It's not going to work. You and I are already on record. We wrote books on it. The Apollo moon missions are fake. So no matter what you do, it's not going to work with the apologists. They're going to come out and call you a fraud anyway. They're going to call you, crazy. You're on the fringe of society. You're nuts. You're a nutcase. All this. It's not going to work, which is why. And I want to add something to this. I'm really happy you brought this up. I saw a story. I said earlier I had some information that I wanted to talk about. I just don't know if you saw recently in the mainstream media. One of the biggest manufacturers of aircraft, commercial airliners in the world, Airbus, has announced that they need to ground their entire world fleet of A320s for it's about 6,000 planes. They need to update the software in their planes because of, I'm not making this up, because of interference in their software program, flight management program from solar radiation. Okay. So, yeah. So you know where I'm going with this. Yeah. So let me just give a little bit of background to people. In the last 40, 50 years ago, which is my favorite era for aviation. I just love the planes back then. The Boeing 707, the DC-8s, they were fantastic commercial airliners. I've flown on a lot of them, and I remember flying on them in the 70s and in the 80s, and I just love those planes. But those planes are different than what we have today. And I just want to give a little background so that I can explain what the importance is of the news item that was announced today about Airbus. Back then, planes used pulleys, cables, and hydraulics to move the flight surfaces of the aircraft. So, for example, the pilot would have direct control over the rudder, which controlled yaw, the elevator, which controlled pitch, and the ailerons, which banked the airplane right and left. Okay, so turning right and left. That's all being replaced now by a system called fly-by-wire. There's no longer any pulleys, any cables, any hydraulics. It's all sensors. So what the pilot does is he'll input a command to the computer, mainframe computer, which is underneath the flight deck, and the computer sends a signal. So let's say he wants to bank the airplane left because he wants to turn left. So the computer will send a signal to the ailerons on the outside of the wings to adjust to turn the plane left. Anything interferes with that signal, the pilot has no control. He has no backup. He has no pulley system. He has no cables to activate those flight controls. And what Airbus is saying is that radiation from the sun has affected their A320 aircraft. And that's very significant. There was an incident where an airplane lost 100 feet altitude and several passengers were injured because the software program malfunctioned. Right? If they lose the software program in their in those planes, it's like throwing a rock. The pilot loses; he has no control because there's no cables, there's no hydraulics, so he can't control his aircraft. Right? So here's what I'm getting at here: if the solar radiation from the sun is affecting aircraft that fly at about 6 miles altitude from the ground, how is it affecting the International Space Station, which is in orbit 200 miles from the ground? How come we never hear anything about that? Did it have extra shielding? I never hear anything about that. By the way, the Apollo moon missions were fly-by-wire systems as well. That was all digital. How come we never heard anything about that? Oh, it's because it's a rope memory computer. Well, you're still using sensors to activate the controls. There's no cables or pulleys. You're activating sensors. So how come there was no concern about that? How come there was no concern? Was there any concern when the space shuttle was flying? Was there any concern about, because it was fly-by-wire, was there any concern that solar radiation could affect or even wipe out the software program that was used to fly that thing? There's so many. I turned to my wife and I said, this is unbelievable. I'm doing a podcast with Weezy tomorrow. I got to bring this up, right? This is new information, right? Yeah. And I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe my ears when I was hearing this, is that you're grounding planes and 5 miles off the ground, we're still within Earth's troposphere, right? We have all this protection. And the naysayers will come back and say, well, but in orbit, we have the protection of the magnetic field, Earth's magnetic field. Okay, we have protection of the Earth's magnetic field, and that does give us protection. But how is it that the radiation was able to get through not only the Earth's magnetic field, but it was able to get through all of our thick atmosphere and affect the software program on an airplane flying 5 miles above the ground, as opposed to the International Space Station flying 200 miles in orbit?
Yeah. But that doesn't get brought up.
Yeah. Interesting little bit of information there. I mean, it's just amazing. Did they just indirectly shoot themselves in the foot?
If MC Toon was here, he'd be like,
he'd be questioning me on my. If he was here, Reezy, he'd be saying, "What do you know about physics, Randy? What do you know about math? You know,
show me your degree."
Yeah. You know my response would be,
what year was it?
Yeah, fuck all, Toony.
Yeah, Toony Balloony.
Yeah.
I mean, a plane 5 miles above sea level and an International Space Station 200 miles allegedly up there.
Yeah. They've never mentioned any concern about that even today. And the ISS is up there. So it just amazes me that and you've got, a certain amount of moisture in our atmosphere that also gives us protection from solar radiation. And he specifically mentioned radiation from the sun, which I found very interesting because if I remember correctly, folks, didn't we just send Apollo missions to the moon and back outside of Earth's magnetic field? Didn't even have the protection of the magnetic field, right? To the moon and back, but solar radiation wasn't an issue. And I might add that this just floors me. They actually mentioned that we're at the height of sun activity right now. We're at that 11-year cycle. Well, that's when the Apollo missions happened, but it was never a concern.
Mm. Yeah, very.
Let that sink in, folks. Let that sink in.
Yeah, that's a very, very keen observation. I guess we can. Before I forget, I did want to bring up your thoughts on the Challenger disaster.
Yeah,
and what you think on that, and maybe we can preface by reminding people. Maybe there's some people out there that don't even know what we're going to be talking about. But what was the Challenger? It happened in 1986. What happened there?
Yeah. So I remember I remember that very well. I was in my mid-20s when that tragedy happened. At the time, I thought it was a tragedy. I still do, but I'm beginning to have some serious questions about it. So what happened is the Space Shuttle Challenger had 7 astronauts on board, including one who was a teacher. And the official narrative says that it launched in 73 seconds into its launch, it exploded. And everybody on board was killed, and it fell into the Atlantic Ocean. That's the official narrative. One of the people on the committee that was asked by Reagan at the time to investigate the shuttle disaster was a physicist by the name of Richard Feynman. Richard Feynman broke ranks with all the other committee members on live camera and demonstrated how it was these oil rings that are attached to the solid fuel rocket boosters that had basically had degraded because of the cold temperatures, and because it was launched in January, and ice had formed, and the fueled propellant was able to escape, and it basically was like a torch on the main fuel tank, which ignited the whole space shuttle. That's the official narrative. Okay. Now, what gets very interesting about this is, and I know some of my community have come out and said this is all crap, that, there was nothing nefarious going on there, nothing sinister. But then you've got to ask yourself this, how come, and I mentioned there's 7 astronauts on board the Challenger back in 1985, how come there was 6 of them appear to be alive today? How does that happen? And I ignored that, and then I looked a little more into it, and I wrote this down because of the 6 that are supposed, these are lookalikes. Not only do they look the same, but they have the same face, they have the same age, and they have the same name. What are the chances of that happening? And 2 of them, by the way, admit that they're twins, but that was never on record before. That just came out when they were confronted. Oh, I'm his twin, right?
Yeah.
Now, what are the chances of that happening in reality? Well, I looked into this a little deeper too. Everybody has a doppelganger. We all have a lookalike. All of us. You too, Weezy, we all do. But that lookalike will not have your name. Chances are you won't have your name, and chances are he won't be the same age as you are. If it does have your name and it's the same age, it's like a once in a 150-year chance that could ever happen. Yet in 40 years, we got 6 of the 7 astronauts that were killed on Challenger that day, lookalikes who are the same age, the same face, and the same name. Is that a coincidence?
Methinks not.
Yeah, there's something really, really bizarre going on here. Okay, I'm still not saying that that whole thing was set up or it was a staged event. I'm not saying that. I'm asking questions. So my own community, please don't push me back on this. I'm asking questions. This is what we do as human beings. We ask questions. So what makes us different is that we ask questions, right? And that's a question I have for people. Why is that happening? That's impossible. That is absolutely impossible. The reasons why, we'll get into the reasons why later, but let's just look at what we have just found. And that's fact. They've actually chased, a reporter came up and confronted one of the astronauts on board that shuttle flight that day was Judith Resnick. And there's a Judith Resnick today. And she would have been the same age. There you go. Right there on the far right. You're looking at your screen on the far right. She was confronted by a reporter and she ran. Literally ran from the reporter. Now, people will say she ran because she thought she was dealing with a nutcase, but it seems like she ran because she had, maybe she was concerned or maybe she was hiding something. The one in the middle here, where is this? Okay, so look on the, right down here. Look on the far left, and his name is McNair. Okay, his last name is McNair. McNair, he was confronted by a reporter today, and he was asked, several years ago, he was confronted, and he said, "Oh yeah, I'm his twin brother." But that was never revealed before then, but it's now, he's revealing it now, and he admits that he's a twin brother. So
this is wild. Like all these guys.
Yeah.
So if you're only listening to this on audio, definitely follow me on Rumble, YouTube. Well, not YouTube, Rumble or Odyssey, and go to timestamp 1 hour 32 minutes, and we have the pictures of these people. There's a picture of them when they were getting ready to go on the Challenger mission, and then there's a picture of their doppelganger, which would be their rough age, right, if they were still alive today. And look how crazy similar they look today. This is insane, man. It's not, I don't think it's far-fetched to go this route. Although people in our community, will say, no, that's a bridge too far. That's a bridge too far. Faking the goddamn moon landings and making millions of people all over the world believe we made it to the moon is batshit crazy, and yet that's exactly what happened. So don't try to tell me this is a bridge too far. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. I mean, when you look at these photos, I mean, they speak volumes for themselves. Now, the question I would have for people is, okay, are they faking the photos? And if they're faking the photos, who's faking them and why? But no, they're not faking the photos, because these are real people. These people actually exist. The top photo on the far left, the commander, I believe it is.
Yeah.
I can't see his name here, but on the far left, I believe he's
Francis Richard Scobie.
Yeah, I believe he's a CEO of a
CEO of Cows.
Company.
Yeah, CEO of Cows and Trees Limited Company. And then if we go to the next one, over Sharon Krista,
the teacher,
McLaugh.
She's a professor.
Syracuse law professor.
Yeah.
Judith Resnick is Judith Resnick. Y'all is at Yale law professor. And then you have Ronald McNair, who is now Carl McNair, who says he's the brother of Ronald McNair.
Yeah.
And then you have Ellison and Claude Onizuka. And then you have that's Judith Resnick again. And then Michael Smith, who is now a professor at Emeritus University of, is it Washington or Wisconsin? I'm not sure. But they are real people living today, same age, doppelgangers. And like you said, if you have one doppelganger and then they have the same name as you, like, what are the freaking odds of that, man?
The same, the same age. And they're exactly the same age they would have been if they were not killed, supposedly killed
in the same country. Country. It's not like you're talking to people all over the world, like you were just saying. Like if you have everyone has a doppelganger somewhere in the world. Yeah. But like my version, the version of Weezy could be like in Afghanistan, and his name is like Muhammad or
and a different age.
Different. Yeah, and he could be 53. For all I know. Yeah. But these guys are all American, same age, same name. What are the freaking odds?
Yeah, exactly. And the odds are actually one in 120 years, you'll find somebody who not only looks like you, but has your same name. But the odds are greater. You'll find somebody who looks like you, but has a different name and might be a different age. But the odds of finding somebody who is not only looks like you, has your face, but has your name and has your same age is almost impossible. That's just one person. Here we have 6.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. Yeah, it's I don't think it's crazy at all. I don't
Yeah.
think it's crazy at all. And like I said, if you already know that the moon landings were fake and you think this is a bridge too far, slow down, bro. The fact that they faked the moon landings to begin with and fooled not only Americans, but fooled the entire world, the
Yeah.
entire global community to believing that that man landed on the moon with 1960s era technology. This is not a bridge too far. Like we just stated, what are the odds of all these doppelgangers? Same country, same age, same name. And they're all well educated. It'd be one thing if one of them was like a bum, like panhandling at a 7-Eleven, but they all have well respected jobs.
And they're all connected. They're all connected.
They're all connected.
Yeah,
Get out of here.
very much so. Yeah.
Oh,
and,
boy.
And yeah, some people say it's a bridge too far, but really, is it? Look at the lies. Just look at the lies, folks.
Yeah. Yeah, man. That was one thing I was curious as to what you were gonna say, Randy. But now that we've done a couple of shows, I think Randy's on board on questioning just about everything. I mean, we really can't take anything these clowns have to say, kind of going back in a similar fashion to debating or talking about debates. And when you talk to someone like MC Toon and they want to use NASA's measurements and NASA's readings for this, and I'm like, wait a minute.
NASA
so we're accusing these guys of faking it, but we got trust me, bro. It's NASA's information. He kept using the trust me, bro line on Raza. This guy is the one using the trust me, bro, by taking NASA's word at everything that they put out, even though they don't have the original telemetry data, even though they don't have the original footage, even though they don't have original of anything. Trust me, bro. NASA says this is what happened. We have to trust them, bro. And that's all we got.
But it's disturbing because it's a mindset with these people, and Toon is one example of that mindset. And the mindset is very disturbing because you have actually one researcher. I think his name is I think his last name is Widener, if I'm not mistaken. He runs a website, and he defends the Apollo moon missions, and he's actually on record saying that even if Neil Armstrong had told him that the missions were faked, he wouldn't believe it.
He's been programmed 100%.
Yeah, and that's why and Raza is free to do whatever he wants. That's his business. But I know personally, I just don't see the point in debating people like MC Toon, because they just don't seem to have that capacity, that cognitive ability to step outside and look at, well, but what about this? It's something you have to at least consider. How can you be 100% sure on anything? And this actually, the likes of MC Toon goes against his own narrative, because science is about questioning everything. If you really believe in science, you believe in questioning it, because today's science is tomorrow's fakery.
Yeah.
Right.
See, that's one of those things that even like I had trusted the science, for the longest times. But my faith, I guess, if you want to call it that, in science has greatly diminished, especially over the COVID years.
Mine too.
And how much the science was weaponized, misused.
Yeah.
I think I mentioned this last time, but Dr. Fauci saying that if what was it? if you don't trust in Dr. Fauci, oh no, if you question Dr. Fauci, you question science itself.
Yeah.
One of the most ridiculous statements of all time. And so that greatly shook what I thought I believed in science. But if we really stick to what science actually is, science is all about questioning everything. If you think you have a solid theory, you should be able to open yourself up to all the scrutiny around. Because if you have a solid foundation, it's going to withstand whatever you throw at it. But if you're scared, maybe you know, your theory isn't so strong as you may think it is. And any little bit of scrutiny that may come and may tumble it down, and you're scared of that, what are you going to do? You're going to censor.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to shut you down. We don't want to hear it. You're going to destroy my little theory that is ready and primed to dupe the masses. And you're going to threaten that? I'm going to shut you down. I'm going to cancel you. And that is wholly unscientific. Because if we were sticking to the scientific spirit, we would welcome it all. Throw anything you goddamn want at me. And I'm so damn sure this is what I was talking about in my debates the reason I like debating people that have a different view than me. I want to put my thoughts and my beliefs to the test. If someone comes and smacks me around a little bit, I'm going to learn from it. I'm not going to cry. You know, maybe my pride will take a little hit for a day or two, but I'm going to learn from it. And maybe I can steel man my arguments. Maybe I can see where I failed, and maybe I can formulate a better argument for my theory that I posited. But you don't censor. You never censor. Let the other person say their piece. Yeah. If your piece is stronger, you should welcome it all. And so this is what happened during the COVID era. We saw so much censoring, so much quieting of the voices that opposed the official narrative. And we're seeing that now and continually. Gosh, where was I going with the science? It's just been shaken, man. And I had so much belief, so much trust in science, and now I'm like, man, who are these scientists getting paid for? You know, who's paying this scientist salary right now? What commercial interest do they have? Are they really seeking truth, or are they seeking approval from whoever's financing or funding their projects? You know what I'm saying? And there's so much of it now. And there's so much junk science that a lot of people in the scientific community don't want to really talk about. But that's the reality of the situation. We saw that with the experimental gene therapy drugs that were on display, and on and on. And I think I want to get a little deeper into that. So if you're on YouTube and you are enjoying this conversation, go over to Rumble, because I'm going to shut down the stream on YouTube. 1 second here.